Well, here we are. Tenere 700 with brand new YSS suspension. I've been avoiding riding in the rain the entire weekend, and now I don't have a choice because I have to go to work. I haven't been able to ride this bike apart from a short stint up the hills on Saturday. I haven't ridden this bike in about 2 weeks. I've done a few other things which you'll have seen. Did an oil change and filter. I attached a Grandad spec screen extender and the Chewy's frame guards. And once we get on the motorway, we will see how all these things come together on a damp commute. Hello, I'm Ray here, and this is MotoNZ, and this is my first ride on the Yamaha Tenere 700 with the YSS suspension. We did cartridges up front, a whole new shock down back. I've got full adjustment on compression, rebound and preload, plus high-low compression at the rear. And this is the first chance I've had to actually ride the bike because I didn't want to get wet. Now I don't have a choice. On to the motorway. She's a bit busy today. Alright, instantly I can feel that the suspension is contacting the road. It's pushing the tyres into the road a lot more. Oh, I'm getting more buffeting from the Grandad screen that I got before. The wind shadow is higher. It's right on the peak of my helmet. I don't know if I like that. It's definitely more buffety. But the suspension being firmer, I feel like I am getting a few extra bumps through the seat. It's not horrible, it's just firmer. One of my concerns with putting the frame guards on was that the pegs would be too short. It doesn't seem to be a problem, really. My feet are on the pegs. Should try standing up for a little bit. Oh yeah, I can actually lock my ankles into the pegs a bit better. I've got more grip, not only through the knees, but through the ankles as well. It's a bit wet. I feel out of sorts. I don't feel like I'm comfortable riding the bike. It is a completely new bike, really. It feels completely different. Of course, the main reason I did the suspension wasn't for the morning commute. The way the bike was fine. But we want it to be better off-road. So hit that subscribe button and check a future video, because we will be getting this off-road. Just not in this weather, because it'll be slippery and I won't enjoy it. The best thing about this new suspension though on the morning commute is when you touch the brakes, the front end doesn't dive, which I quite like. Being sprung for my weight and having more control, I'm no longer shooting through the entire travel of the fork whenever I touch the brakes. So that's a good thing. Going to mean that we have more control all around. Definitely a busy morning though. And for the first time in a long time, the pin lock on my helmet is not doing a very good job. Up to 100 kilometers an hour, let's get some airflow. And slow down to 60. MT07. Can't actually tell if it's a high output or a lamb's model, but basically the same engine as this. Alright, so Robert said it would be more compliant. It is. It's sprung for my weight, so it's the suspension is handling the weight transfer, no worries. I don't like this granddad spec screen extender. It's the idea of putting that on was to try and move the contact point at which the wind hits my helmet to above the peak of my helmet. It's hitting me right on the peak, but introducing a whole new level of turbulence. I'm not a big fan. At low speeds it's fine, like at this speed, 39 kilometers an hour, it's fine, but at higher speeds it's a whole new level of turbulence, which I'm not a big fan of. If I can clear some of this fog off my screen, because it's really slowing me down this morning. There we go, it's clearing a little bit. It's funny, you can ride through rain on your visor, no worries, but as soon as you get a bit of fog on there, it causes all sorts of dramas. Oh, it's definitely a wintry morning this morning, crikey! Alright, new suspension, let's see what it's like to ride over a cat's eye. Oh yeah, I can feel them. Okay, so, road riding. With new YSS suspension, it is... Nah, I've got to say, it's a more comfortable ride. At bare minimum, you should get your suspension sprung for your weight. Because every time I hit the brakes with the old setup, the bike would dive in the front. And it would just upset the geometry of the bike, you know. You roll off the throttle in a corner. I know you're not meant to, but that's how I ride. And it would just get unsettled. I learned to ride around it. I learned that's what the bike does. And now it doesn't do it. It's a whole different bike, and I'm learning how to ride it all over again. Riding over cat's eyes at that speed is still pretty bone jarring. Not as bad as the Harley Davidson Sportster S though, crikey. Woohoo, that was spine realignment. Temperature's good, vitals good. Bike feeling fantastic after an oil change. They always do, don't they? You ever find that? You do a bunch of service work and maybe it's the placebo effect, but they just feel new and fantastic. Keeping an eye out for cars changing lanes here at the merge. 11 degrees. Tell you what, if we were any further south, this might feel like snow. Recently I was treated to some new gloves by the guys at Forbes and Davies, the New Zealand Exxon dealer, or a distributor I should say. So these Exxon gloves, I can't take my hands off the bars right now, but I'll show you in a second. Waterproof, they say. They have a big tag that says waterproof. As you know, I've tested a lot of waterproof gear and it's quite often come up short, but I've never had a problem with gloves. Exxon Ragnar gloves. They've got the webbing between the little finger and the second finger. I believe that's a thing in the motorcycle racing world. You offers a little bit of support to that little finger because it's the one that you're going to break when you come off. But some decent armour across the knuckle. They go quite high up your wrist. But one thing I really like about them is that the hand of the glove, the fingers, have some decent padding and insulation, where the wrist is just waterproof. They get rid of a lot of that insulation on the wrist, which means that it's not clashing with your jacket as much, because your jacket generally comes down to the wrist, right? So I've had gloves before which have had the same insulation in the wrist as they do in the fingers and back of the hand and all that, and it means that they're just a bit tight around the wrist. But these ones, they've got a pull drawstring around the wrist to stop water getting in. And take the waterproofing of these gloves quite seriously. Thank you very much, Forbes and Davies, for sending me these Exxon Ragnar gloves. They come in, you know, pretty much all black, or the black and off-white that you can see I'm wearing. I think I went for the black and off-white because they'd photograph better. Because generally when you're trying to take a photo of something all black, it just comes out all black, right? There's not much depth. Okay, well, I'm nearing the end of my morning commute. I gotta say, the suspension is firmer, feels more planted. It does feel good. It doesn't dive under braking anymore. The rear doesn't squat as much when I get on it. So the Kuba link, lowering link, really coming into its own there. And of course I got the low Yamaha seat on as well, which means I can straddle the bike, touch the ground with both legs at the same time, which is all a good thing. The suspension not diving and squatting as much is going to force the tyres into the ground and offer more traction. Well, that's the theory anyway. We do still need to get this bike off-road and see how it performs. But initial feelings are that it's good. We like it. And at bare minimum, the suspension's been serviced, so it's new. I can't say that it's worth the money for this commute. However, we did set the bike up for off-road, you know, with quick rebound at the front and slightly quicker than normal rebound at the rear. No, slower rebound at the rear, so the back squats a little bit when you're going through the rough stuff, because you want the front to just bounce over those obstacles, rocks and logs and whatnot. So yeah, feels good, but for this commute I can't say it's the best setup. It's not bad, nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't, I'm not getting on the bike going, oh, this feels amazing. I'm just getting on the bike going, well, it doesn't squat anymore, that's great. But we will get this bike off-road at some stage. The Chevy's frame guards, you can't actually feel that you've got them on after a while. So they're good. I was worried that they'd stick out too much and kind of be a hindrance getting my feet on the pegs, but no, they're fine. The old man screen, I'm not convinced. It does keep a bit more wind off me, but it also makes it a bit more buffety, which is less than ideal. I've got plenty more to do to this bike over the next couple of weeks, so please do hit that subscribe button. Come along for the ride. If you've got any comments or questions, chuck them up below and I will endeavour to answer them for you. Otherwise, keep the rubber side down, throttle on, and I'll catch you next week. Hooroo!